next, we are going to make contact with David Horowitz. And David is going to join us here in just a few moments. He is, I'm sure, going to be fired up, as he always is, every time I have him on this show. So, we are going to call Mr. David Horowitz and get him in here and get things rolling. Maybe.
Hello.
David, how are you? It's James Lowe calling you for your radio interview. How are you, sir?
Hi, James. I'm fine. I'm ready to go.
Okay, well, give me a couple seconds here, and we will get off and running. We are back live here on our world-famous Jiggy Jaguar radio broadcast. I have got one of our good friends of the program here, Mr. David Horowitz. We love talking to David, and he is a best-selling author of Dark Agenda, The War to Destroy Christian America. And David joins us today here on the telephone. And David, let's talk a little bit about your book. It is fantastic. I know a lot of people are picking this up. I've had a lot of people ask me when we were going to have you back on the show to talk about the book. So tell me about this best-selling book, my friend.
Well, we have inside our country now a seditious party that hates America, namely the Democrats.
Yes.
They're a racist party. Identity politics is pure racism, judging you by your skin color or your gender. It's collectivist because you disappear inside your group. Doesn't matter what you did in your life. If you're white, you're guilty before the fact. And if you're a person of color, you're innocent even if the facts show you're guilty because the power structure is ranged against you. And the attack on Christianity, of course, has been going on in a ferocious manner since the 60s. But not just Christians, but also Jews, of course. Where they drove prayer out of the schools and then religion. You can't tell school children in public schools that the Pilgrims were Christians who were escaping religious persecution. So people don't know the origins of their freedoms. Every freedom that we cherish, every value, equality, liberty, life, tolerance, inclusion, these are all originated as Christian ideas. Our country was founded by 98% were, almost 100% were Christians, but 98% were Protestant Christians. And these are all Protestant ideas. Before the Reformation, the Protestant Reformation, you couldn't get into heaven if you were a Christian without going through the Catholic Church and its priesthood. And people actually paid indulgences so they could get out of purgatory and into heaven to the church. The church was a mediator between God and his creatures.
Yes.
The Protestants, the Reformers said churches are human institutions and therefore they're subject to human corruptions, just the way governments are. This was such a radical idea. And they came up with an alternative, what they called it the priesthood of all believers. That is, that every creature of God, or every human being created by God, has a one-on-one relationship with their Maker without the intermediary of a church or a government. When you think about that, that is the most radical idea. That's where we get our belief in equality.
Yes.
Because it included black slaves, if they were believers. And that's why Protestant Christians and America led the world in abolishing slavery. Today we have the New York Times and the Democratic Party pushing a fiction. It's already a curriculum in 3,000 schools. It's called the 1619 Project. And what it says is that the founding of America was not 1776 with the proclamation that all men are created equal and are endowed by their Creator with inalienable rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But America was founded in 1619 when the first slaves arrived in Jamestown colony. But even those Africans were indentured servants, not slaves, which meant they'd be free people in 7 years. The majority of labor in the Jamestown colony was indentured servants, and most of them were white. So the indictment of America by the party of Nancy Pelosi and Adam Schiff and Hillary Clinton as a racist country is an attack on our very foundations. And my book, Dark Agenda, documents how this attack had started. They used the Supreme Court because it's a very undemocratic institution. When you think about it, what is the Supreme Court? It's 9 lawyers appointed for life by politicians. Now, how could that go wrong? But they use this 9-person body to, for example, change overnight the country's official attitude towards killing babies with Roe v. Wade. It was made-up law. It was all based on a non-existent right to privacy, which is not in the Constitution. And it's where all the divisions in our country have come from, and it created a movement among Christians. Part of the problem has been that conservatives and Christians in particular, but also Republicans, are too civilized. They don't like street warfare. They don't like bringing the guns to a knife fight attitude that the Democrats have. And so until Trump, they didn't really fight these battles. Although it began, the Christian right was created in response to the awful decision of Roe v. Wade. And it elected first Ronald Reagan and then Trump. And so we have a real battle on our hands where our side is finally fighting back and winning.
We have got a great guest with us today. David Horowitz joins us here on the telephone talking about his latest bestseller, Dark Agenda, The War to Destroy Christian America. David, this book is incredibly well written. Talk to me a little bit about the writing process for this book.
Well, it took me probably 40 years to become a decent writer. When I do these books, I can do them very swiftly because I've spent, your listeners probably, if they've heard of me, they'll know that I was brought up by communists, card carrying. When I saw how evil the communist movement and the progressive movement were, my parents, who were communists, always referred to themselves as progressives. When I saw how bad it was, I dedicated my life to exposing the left. And that's how I know that somebody like Obama, who was brought up by communists just the way I was, is still a communist, because the first thing, if you realize how evil the movement you're part of is, the first thing you want to do is warn other people and denounce it. And of course, Obama has never done that, nor have the people around him who also came from communist backgrounds. So I've been doing this now for 30 or 40 years, and it comes fairly readily to me. I enjoy doing it, people seem to be responding. The book has done very well, and it's gotten high praise from Mike Huckabee and others, Gary Bauer, and people like that.
Fantastic. David Horowitz with us today. Dark Agenda. Yes, go ahead, David. Didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I just did a series of 3 articles at frontpagemagazine.com, which is my website, called Wars Visible and Invisible about the coronavirus. There's the war against the virus, which doesn't discriminate between it. We're all in the same boat, and it's life-threatening. And the The other war is the coup that the Democrats are still trying to prosecute and to remove Trump. They're sabotaging the war effort. These are traitors. Nancy Pelosi is a traitor. She's already forming committees to attack. Well, she's been attacking Trump since it started. When Trump put in the ban on Chinese travel from China to America, he saved thousands of, or maybe tens of thousands of lives. But he was denounced by Biden and Hillary and Pelosi and the Democrats as a racist. I mean, these people are living on another planet. It's not racist when you have an epidemic affecting whatever millions of people actually is. The Chinese lie about their numbers. And they let 5 million inhabitants of Wuhan, where the virus started, freely travel out and across the world, and that's why we have a global pandemic, because of the Chinese. But you have the Democrats are making America the villain because they hate Trump. And why do they hate Trump? Because he's a patriot, because he believes in America first, which they consider white nationalism. Because he stands up for our industries and our economy. So we're in a life and death struggle now with these Democrats. Some of them, like Gavin Newsom, gave Trump full credit for. He's done a wonderful job with this virus. Anybody watching either his press conferences or even Cuomo's knows that this is a very complicated battle. There's the virus, and then there's the economy, and measures to stop the virus hurt the economy, and you have to make these decisions that based on not enough information either. So we're in the midst of a war, and the Democrats are on the other side, just the way they were on the other side when Trump killed Soleimani, the chief terrorist in the world, who killed thousands of Americans, and killed people all over the Middle East, the Iranian general. The Democrats, to a man and woman, were defending Soleimani.
Yes, I thought that was insane.
Unbelievable. I mean, if you vote for Democrats, you should examine your conscience. What you're doing.
We've got David Horowitz with us today. Dark Agenda, the war to destroy Christian America. Speaking of the Democrats, what do you think of this push to dump Biden and put Cuomo in there?
Well, you knew that Biden was never going to be the candidate. I mean, the guy's senile. I think he's a very nasty human being and a compulsive liar, but he's so pathetic. I mean, I try to prevent myself from feeling sorry for him. He's he's totally corrupt. They all are. They're all in the pockets of the Chinese. They've made millions. One of the things, for example, one of the anti-Trump commentators, Andrew Sullivan, described Trump as being, and they all do actually, as being interested only in himself, not caring about anybody else, being an egomaniac. And, Clinton made himself a $70 million fortune by selling, his office of president. Obama is worth at least 40 or 50 million. Did it the same way. Trump is the only president in the history of the country who gave his entire $400,000 salary back to the people. And in fact, this quarter, which he gets $100,000 for, he donated to the coronavirus. And anybody watching him fight these trade deals, we've had through 3 presidencies, Clinton, Bush, and Obama, they let us be fleeced by the Chinese and Japanese and the Europeans to the tune of trillions of dollars in unfair trade deals because they were too lazy or just didn't care. So the cause is to make Trump the villain. It takes a lot of mental gymnastics. shall we say.
Yes, yes.
And let me say, I've got a new book coming out in June. It's already up on Amazon. So if you're going up there to buy Dark Agenda, you could order this one too. It's called Blitz. Trump will smash the left and win. And it's the most comprehensive indictment of the Democrat Party you'll ever want to read.
Now, David, why do you think that, because I know that there are, tons of media and tons of folks that are so shocked that during this COVID-19 epidemic and all the different things going on, that Trump's numbers just keep going up.
Because the American people aren't stupid. And when they see a gang rape, they identify with the victim. And that's what's going on in the left-wing media, ABC, NBC, CBS, MSNBC, CNN, the New York Times, the Washington Post, and probably every local paper in the country. They have the knives out for Trump. And people see that this guy, he's 73 years old. He's a bloody billionaire. He could be having a really easy and exciting life. Has dedicated himself to the American people. They see the guy works around the clock. Just these trade deals I mentioned. Everybody was opposed to the war with China, if you'll recall, and he won it. He's an incredible leader when you think about it. Can stand up to all this hate opposition, an army of hate against him, and has enough confidence in his judgment to do these things that no previous president has done. I think Bush, Clinton, and Obama, shame on them all for not fixing these trade relationships that have brought trillions of dollars back to America, jobs, manufacturing industries, and how they allowed China to become the controller of our supply chain for pharmaceuticals. Unbelievable. This is a communist dictatorship. They're evil. It is an evil empire. They've got a million Uyghur, that's the ethnicity, Uyghur Muslims in concentration camps, cutting their body parts out, so they can, use them and sell them. It's unbelievable. They're in prison, they're beaten, they're made into slave labor. And in the Democratic Party, Biden said we don't have a problem with China. Well, maybe he doesn't have a problem, but any decent human being does.
It is just insane, my friend. We've got David Horowitz with us today. Dark Agenda, the war to destroy Christian America. Why do you think your books connect so well with people? Why do you think your books are always bestsellers?
You have to write. The way you think. If you pay attention to your mental processes, you go off on sidetracks. You make associations. You think of all different kinds of things. But when you're writing, it has to be in a straight line. You can't have all these other side thought processes going, or nobody's going to be able to read your book. So it's a discipline writing. As I say, I've been, my first book came out in 1962. Wow, that's a long time ago.
Yes.
And I've learned by doing.
It is just amazing the track record.
And I think it's an obligation that writers about politics have to be clear, and so you're not misunderstood. I think that's very important. You don't want to mislead people.
Yes, you definitely don't want to mislead people. Well, David, you have a great book here. You can buy it on Amazon, and the next book is going to be out very soon.
June 2nd.
It is fantastic. I'm sure it's going to be another bestseller. And I appreciate you making time for us today. Thanks for coming on, my friend.
Oh, I appreciate your making time for me. Thank you.
Definitely. Have yourself a wonderful, wonderful day. Thank you, David. There he goes, David Horowitz, the best-selling author. We are going to take a timeout.